Hi, Robert Chuckrow here. I'm going to talk about and show cloud hands. And what I'm going to show comes from my training, my thought processes, from what I feel when I do it, from my education, and other people with different of those elements will have maybe a different opinion about it. But I just want to show you what I feel and how I do it. Cloud hands has a lot of elements to it. One of them is the circular motion of the hands. And the question is, where are the centers of those circular motions? And I'll talk about that. The other is that the hands are constantly rotating as they're doing the movements. They're always rotating. And to do that is not easy, especially to have it be consistent or synchronized with the phase of the circular motion. And the third thing is the stepping. And cloud hands are 100% stances. And as so, the stepping, in order for it to be able to optimize the transfer of motion from the hips, the shifting of the hips, the turning of the hips to the hands, there has to be the right timing of that stepping. And that's something that I don't see many people do, and I want to talk about that. And of course, what I'm going to say is going to differ from what Cheng taught. And I can understand that. His goal was to spread Taiji and create a large number of teachers who could go all over the world and spread it, which certainly it was done. And the form that he created and the movements that he created were a simplified version, a shortened version. He even said that was his goal. At the time he did it, Yang Cheng Fu had already passed, but he ran it by the senior student Chen Wei Ming, who put his seal of approval on it. So the question is, should I do it the same way as I learned it 54 years ago? And my answer is, well, I've read some of his books, and in his books he talked about things or wrote about things that go way beyond what he taught. And that's totally understandable. He left a legacy of knowledge for those of us who wanted to progress in the art beyond what we were taught by him in those few years in the 1960s and 70s. First, let's talk about the motion of the hands, the circular motion. And the way I learned it from Professor Cheng was that the centers of the palms are always in the median plane. The median plane is that which bisects the body into two more or less symmetric halves. And so as I turn, it does this. Then when I turn back, it does this. Hands facing each other at the end, facing the body at the center. And I feel that when I bring my hands this close, that I have to exert a certain amount of force to bring my arms in against the compression of the tissues in the chest. So here's an exercise that I like to do when I'm alone, and I teach to my students, and I think is very good for learning where the centers of the circles are. So let's just use one hand, and I turn. When I'm finished turning, when I've turned all the way and shifted all the way, if I'm shifting, both can happen at the same time. Then my hand is at the lowest position. And notice, that would be not centered, but it would be under the shoulder. And then I come back. Now when it gets to the top of the circle, which is about here, I turn the other way. That's the circular motion. So the center of the circular motion is more or less in a plane parallel to the median plane, but through the shoulder, and a little lower than the shoulder. In other words, it's not at the shoulder joint, but below it. So this is where the center of the circle is, and I'm letting the circle just tell me how it should go rather than choreographing it. Okay. When it gets to the top of the circle, I turn oppositely. When it gets to the bottom of the circle, I turn oppositely. And that would hold for both hands. And now the separation of the hands at each moment, the horizontal separation, is about a shoulder width, maybe a little less. So this is the movement. Now there's the rotation of the hands. And in order for that to happen uniformly, it has to be recognizing that the hand is wound up and then letting it unwind, and then using ne-jin to wind it the other way, and using the whole arm, not just letting the elbow hang. When the hand turns palm down, the elbow comes up about to wrist level, which means the upper arm is doing a lot of this circle. So it looks like this. So that is the movement. And of course these are, one is clockwise, the other is counterclockwise, and the beginners find it hard to do this. So I don't teach it this way. I teach it exactly the way Cheng and Cheng taught it. It's perfect for beginners. This is the way cloud hands was taught when I studied with Cheng and Cheng in the early 1970s. Starting from diagonal flying, shift into the forward leg, turn to the right, holding a ball, two palms facing, step up with the left foot so that the two heels are on the same east-west line, shift, turn. As I turn, the right foot pivots on the heel to become parallel to the left foot. The two hands are now facing, the palms are facing the body, one hand directly over the other when I'm in the neutral position, and then I keep turning, and then I step with my right foot and shift, turn again, one hand right over the other, palms facing the body, turn, etc. And step wide, etc. So that's the way I learned it, and that's the way I teach it to beginners. But I do it a little differently now because of incorporation of dong, dang, move, and swing. And the idea in dong, dang is to maximize the transfer of motion from the shifting and turning of the trunk of the body to the arms. So the way I do it now is as follows. I shift into the right leg just the way I learned it, step up, shift all the way over. And now my weight is 100% on this foot, and I step. And that's before my hands come to the top and bottom positions. And then I shift the other way and turn the other way as my hands are swinging. And again, this is the way I do it now. And that is much more in line with dong, dang. And it's something that Cheng and Cheng wrote about in 2 different books. So he must have felt it was important, and it is especially so because I don't find it anywhere else. Thank you.